Dear Diary, today I sat down, played Breath of the Wild, and actually enjoyed myself. Let's get into it. Long story short, I had a bunch of stuff recorded, a bunch of videos recorded, and if you've been watching any of my Let's Plays of Breath of the Wild, you would know that I have mixed feelings about this game, and I picked it back up. I played it for about an hour or so, wrote my thoughts down as I went along, and all that footage got corrupted. So then I played it a little bit more, and it was kind of just a continuation. I'll get to that in a minute. But while you're here, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. It would really mean the world. Let me know what kind of content you want to see, or any spins I should make on this. I would really appreciate it. But Breath of the Wild has been called like the greatest game ever made by some. I definitely don't feel that way, but I really had a nice time in this game today. While the gameplay I'm going to show you at first isn't directly related, it's only because I don't have any footage to kind of tell that story, so sorry. If you're a fan of Breath of the Wild 2, you would probably understand, where I'm coming from on some of this, potentially. So definitely let me know what you think. So I was in Zoros Domain, and as many of you know, when on your way to Zoros Domain, there's a bunch of Lizalfos with, electric arrows, and it's rainy and nasty there, and it's really easy to die. And I did find that kind of annoying. Once I got to Zoros Domain, though, I only had a little bit left. So once I got to Zoros Domain, the first thing I did was I actually went to a shrine, and the shrines were something that were introduced here in this game kind of in place of dungeons in a way. And I do think it's kind of interesting how a lot of the shrines are straightforward and pretty easy to grasp, easy to understand. But a lot of the time, there are multiple ways to approach the problem, and I think that's why people either love it or hate it, because I think a lot of Zelda fans just want to be told what to do, whereas, a lot of other Zelda fans like figuring out things, and doing things their own way. So I understand, but I had fun with this little shrine. It was fun to kind of kick the ball around and try and get it in the right place, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. But after I got done with that shrine, it was time to get down to business. So you come to learn basically that in pursuit of the divine beast Zaruda, you find Zidon and King Dorephan, and they kind of tell you everything about the divine beast, and the divine beast Zaruda, and they kind of give you the lowdown on what's happening, and your goal is to, of course, appease one of the divine beasts. Turns out that the Zora King's daughter, I think you would say her name is Mifa, I'm not sure how to say it. Apparently she's like loved you from like 100 years ago, because of course you've been in amnesia, right? She was like in love with you. You kind of get this flashback, you get this sweet armor. And it was kind of interesting just to kind of see the whole dynamic between the Hylians and the Zoras, because the Zoras and the Hylians don't really like each other. And there's one Zora there in particular that especially doesn't really like you. And he's kind of baffled to see this armor that you were wearing, which Mifa had made it for you because she wanted to basically be with you. And I guess that's Zora tradition. Touching moment. And, it was one of those things where it was like, it's almost like Link is destined to, save this. He's like, and it would make sense, that all these things would fall into place because Link is kind of like the one of the game, right? Like he's the destined one to kind of take care of everything. Even though the Hylians and the Zoras don't like each other that much, the Zoras at least acknowledge that this divine beast is causing torrential downpours that is going to affect the land if it keeps going. So you got to take down the divine beast. So after all this story kind of unfolds and you kind of understand how all these pieces are fitting together, which they did a pretty nice job of actually with relatively no exposition whatsoever. Like you literally go there, find out that the king's daughter was in love with Link. You have a flashback that kind of ties it all together. You see the affection that she has for him. You see the opposition from one of the elders basically in, Zora's domain. His name's Muzu, kind of like showing his disdain for it, but ultimately seeing that it's for the best that, the Zoras work with Link, even though he's a Hylian. It's kind of cool to see all that wrap up. I enjoyed that. After that, you have a task of retrieving 20 shock arrows. And the way you're going to do that is use that fancy new armor you got. You're going to swim up a waterfall, and you're going to go retrieve the arrows from basically a Lionel territory. So after retrieving those arrows, it's time to go fight the divine beast. Now, I had footage for all of that, and then more footage. Obviously I've been showing you other footage of like the fight and stuff like that. I enjoyed exploring, this first divine beast. It was kind of like in place of a dungeon, or more of like a grander version of like the shrines. That Zelda magic was a little missing for me, but but I understand we're kind of trying to usher in a new era. But I enjoyed it. I didn't have to look up anything. It took me around 30 or 45 minutes to get all the way through it and get to the boss, which I quickly realized that I needed more health, and I have a bunch of orbs that I need to go like exchange. So after 4 or 5 times of trying to fight the boss, that's basically where I got to. And yeah, because I'm just not that good at video games, and also I'm dumb. A couple of things come to mind. The things I really liked: this game always impresses me with how good looking it is. Playing with headphones, and really trying to soak in the environment. The music is just second to none. It's so good. The music is really, really good and well done. The lack of voice acting in some places, like some cutscenes we have voice acting, whereas, other places most of the time we don't have voice acting, which is kind of interesting because I think it would add a lot of life to the game. But traditionally, there hasn't been a ton of voice acting in Zelda. It's all reading. But even with all of that, it was still pretty good, a pretty good time. I do have problems with the combat at times just because it is so hard. Like, if you're not well prepared, if you haven't spent the time to explore, to get those extra orbs and get through those shrines, that way you have plenty of life to like go up against those challenges, it can be frustrating because now I'm going to have to go out, exchange those orbs, maybe find some more. I don't know, because basically one shot and I'm dead currently at this point. Definitely going to need another bow. There's just a lot of tools that I feel like I'm missing that I know I need to like do better. But overall, I enjoyed this play session. There were a couple times where, like, especially in Zoros Domain, where the screen was tearing a little bit. Just seemed like it was, a little much for the Switch to handle, which I kind of see the gripes, about the new Switch not having any more power, because that scene would look incredible, even better than it does now if it had a little more power. But overall, I had a good time with it, and I enjoyed this session, so there you have it. What do you think of Breath of the Wild? What do you think of this particular section of the game, the Zaruda Divine Beast, as well as this whole Zora thing? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. I am going to keep recording these as I play. Maybe I play an hour or 2 at a time. We'll see. You never know with me. But I'm going to try and record my thoughts and capture the gameplay, the correct gameplay, as much as I could. I did try and go back, from a previous save to like reload, but it just didn't work. I didn't have a save back far enough, so. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and before I go, check this out. Hello, whatever possessed you to check out any of the content that you saw today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If you check the description down below, you'll see that there's a variety of different projects that I'm associated with. This is Wannabe Critic Productions after all. So I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed what you saw today, consider giving some of those other projects a chance as well. There's a lot of stuff that I'm a part of that that I do. If you were here for me or for someone else that you saw today, again, just thank you for checking it out, and I hope to see you again. But until next time, I'm Gabriel Fast, and I'll always be the Wannabe Critic.